Good afternoon, everyone. This is Colleen Alber with Hyland Software. I am thrilled to be here today, and thank you for your patience as it took me an extra minute to log on to our GoToWebinar this afternoon. If you could give me a hello or a hi in the chat that you see the screen and hear my voice, I would appreciate it, just so that I know folks are there, ready, waiting, and listening. We will do our very best to get you out of here in the allotted time, maybe 20 to 30 minutes. So I appreciate if you can roll over a few minutes with me if you can. And then from there, I'll hang on the line for anybody who is able to stay. Thank you, Gigi and Kelly, for giving me that little feedback. It's always nice to know that someone is out there and they can see and hear you just fine. So I appreciate that. At the end of the webinar, I'll stay on. If you've got any questions, please type them in as we go, and we will get to all questions either during or after. So let's dive in. We're here today to talk about OnBase signature solutions. And I think it makes sense to start at the top. Why sign electronically? I think in 2023, it's obvious, but bears repeating that our end users have expectations of digital interaction and experiences. And why not integrate a preferred signing vendor, such as a DocuSign or an Adobe Sign, we'll talk about both, with OnBase in order to facilitate an end-to-end cradle-to-grave electronic automated process, extending OnBase documents to these cloud-based signing providers. We use our integration with DocuSign with our existing OnBase system at Hyland extensively. In fact, if you talk to our legal department, they'll say that they can't live without it. You know, we have done all of this work to get the documents from paper to an electronic platform. We've got a contracts management solution in our OnBase system. Yet prior to this integration, we found ourselves printing in order to capture a signature only to scan back in. This was, of course, years ago, but still, it made absolutely no sense. And I still hear some of the horror stories of this happening within organizations. So we're here today to change that. As of OnBase 12, we first released an OnBase integration for DocuSign. This is by far the industry leader. They are, you know, the big whale in the small pond of e-signing solutions, for better or for worse. We've been working with them since 2012, and we have a tight, feature-rich integration with DocuSign, giving users the ability to sign OnBase documents directly from the DocuSign cloud. And we're going to talk about some of the specifics of this. But in the most general sense, the document starts in OnBase. It could be an image, it could be a PDF, it could be a Word document. We're using all of the tools in OnBase to set permissions, to make updates, to manage those revisions. And then at some point in that process, either ad hoc or using workflow, a user will say, you know what, it's time to get the signature or multiple signatures. It's sent up to the DocuSign cloud. OnBase is aware the entire time that the document is there. It's signed by that user anytime, anywhere. We see an iPad on our screen here, and the document is back in OnBase. I'm assuming many of you have signed something, most likely from your phone via DocuSign. It's very easy to use. It's user-friendly. While it does require licenses on the side of those that are pushing the documents out for signature, those individual users, no licensing required, no local software requirements. It's very user-friendly and intuitive. There are three key features that come with this integration: uploading documents from OnBase to DocuSign, downloading a signed document from DocuSign into OnBase, and then lastly, some administrative tools. So we'll start at the top here with the upload process. When it comes to the integration for DocuSign, you essentially have two methods to make a document available for signature. The first is the user-driven upload document. I'm on the document, I'm gonna click a button, I'm gonna enter the email address of the recipient, facilitate the signatures. The second is more of an automated process where it's workflow-driven. We've configured everything we need behind the scenes within our workflow, like we're grabbing that email address because we already have it as one of the keywords on our document, and we're sending it up to DocuSign in an automated fashion. Typically, this is paired with DocuSign templates. We know we're signing a contract A, which means that we need a signature here, here, here. This is a document type of contract A, so we're gonna match it with that template and send it out. So let's take a look. So here's an example of that ad hoc method. It's certainly much easier to show in this scenario where we can actually see what the user would be doing. But in our Unity client ribbon, we have the ability to send to DocuSign to modify that envelope. That's the little container for the letter in DocuSign terminology, or to cancel the transaction. And once the user opts to select this from their tabbed ribbon, this is now just kind of like a zoomed out view to send to DocuSign. Either they are selecting the template, they're applying the template that they want, or they're going through the process, and you can see all the tools on the left and on the right here within the DocuSign interface. Now I'm in OnBase, but I'm also being presented with the DocuSign interface. The user is selecting the type of signature they want. They're adding the location of the signature. And this is just in that little bit more of a manual or an ad hoc, oh, I need a signature, let me get it sent out type scenario. From here, DocuSign takes over. They facilitate notifying the user that we need a signature. They facilitate the authentication. And they also are essentially like the governing entity of the signing ceremony. Our user receives that email to sign the document. They click on the link from the notification. They review the document, and then they click to apply that signature to the document. And the finished document can then be printed. If they want, they'll also get an email that says that they can save it. The user has all kinds of options with regard to how do they want to handle the document that they've just signed. But of course, on the OnBase side, we want it back in our system, right? So that we can continue that business process, which is what brings us to the download from DocuSign. And there's a couple of flavors here, a couple of features, I should say, that go with this download capability. The biggest and the most important being that the document is automatically returned to OnBase when the envelope is complete. And that envelope could contain, the multiple documents, multiple signatures from multiple recipients. And the documents are brought back into OnBase either as a replacement of the existing document or as a revision to the original. And we're keeping that consistent audit trail in OnBase the entire time. And then lastly, the signatures, and this is really cool, I'll show you this feature, can be verified from any OnBase client. So we're talking, when I say any, I mean client, web client, Unity client. But what that means is that the document has not been updated or tampered with or changed since the document was last signed. And when we verify that signature from the OnBase client, as you can see here, we're actually pinging the DocuSign server and saying this document with this unique envelope ID hasn't been altered since it was signed. And we are validating or verifying that signature against the DocuSign server to keep that authenticity of the document. Another really cool feature is that we get all of those envelope details, and they're all available directly from OnBase. So my OnBase user, who might be my contracts administrator in this case, is able to see the DocuSign information without actually leaving OnBase and going into DocuSign. We surface a lot of those envelope details directly from OnBase. And this includes not only the history and the activity, but there's also a location feature which can showcase on a map exactly where that document is signed. And that feature is often used in cases of fraud prevention. You know, I know that this user should technically be in Cleveland, Ohio, but somehow they're signing from Austin, Texas. Is that legitimate? They happen to be traveling at the moment, or is something a little fishy? But it's just another layer of security and authentication and fraud prevention that is available with the integration. Now that we have our document uploaded and signed and brought back into OnBase, typically as a revision, we have some administrative tools at our disposal. And again, our administrators have access to these DocuSign administrative capabilities, eventually all available from OnBase. So, eventually what that means is that our administrator of our OnBase and our DocuSign solution, they don't ever have to leave the OnBase environment to get what they need. They've got everything in one place. From here, they can manage the envelopes, they can check the status of a document at any time, and they can lastly view that auditable history of the document throughout its life cycle. And I'll show you some of that. So from the administrative layout, you'll see that we have a DocuSign administrative capability. So our documents have been sent either ad hoc or via workflow. We're grabbing templates manually, or we're automatically assigning them based on the workflow. But here's where some of this status information is available. So from the DocuSign administration, you'll see the ability to see the status of documents, where they are in the process, like the document has been viewed, but it hasn't yet been signed. They can also manage the envelope history, modify them, void them. And this is a very popular feature. There's also the ability to show the certificates of completion. So this is an additional document that is archived into OnBase when the document has been signed. And it's just another layer of validation and authentication that the signer is indeed who they say they are, and that the document has not been altered since it has been signed. I know many customer organizations that just cross-reference this document from the signed document in OnBase. They've got this receipt, if you will, and while they don't typically access them all that often, they do have this little receipt at their disposal in case they need it. So to wrap up our integration for DocuSign, what do you need to make this happen? We'd like you to be on OnBase 18 or greater. While this was introduced in OnBase 12, in order to be on the more recent supported versions of OnBase, 18 or greater is ideal. There is an additional license for this integration, depending on whether you're using more of the a la carte licensing model or simplified pricing. This is an add-on. EDM services, workflow, traditional OnBase components and clients are all required as well. We've got a really great case study, and if you're looking to talk to a customer, Wendy Barker and Meredith Ellis from the Red Canoe Credit Union talk about how integrating DocuSign with OnBase was a slam dunk for them. So if you look for the Red Canoe Credit Union case study on OnBase and DocuSign, you'll get their whole story, and certainly happy to put you in touch with someone who's using it. I know as a consumer myself, that always makes me feel better to talk to somebody else who's used the same product and hear how it went for them. So I'll pause for a moment and see if we've got any questions on the integration for DocuSign. And then we will wrap up with the second half of our presentation here, which is a brief overview, very similar to what you just saw for DocuSign, but now on the Adobe Sign side of the equation. All right, very good. So let's talk about the integration for Adobe Sign. This was released with Foundation EP5. And what we were hearing from our customers was a few things. And some of the feedback wasn't particularly flattering to DocuSign, mostly that they were becoming maybe challenging to work with. More often I heard, though, that the product was great, but it was getting awfully expensive. We also heard from some customers, different departments are using different things, and we happen to have both DocuSign and Adobe Sign within our organization for different reasons, but we'd love to have OnBase as the back end to both of those signature solutions. And so we partnered with Adobe Sign, and I can't say enough good things about them. They were fabulous to partner with on a technical side, but also on a business and sales side, probably because they're pretty hungry to get into that space. And a little background on them, they purchased EchoSign and rebranded it as the Adobe Sign signature solution or signature cloud. And in essence, it is the same, right? It's an OnBase document being sent to the Adobe Sign cloud for signature, them facilitating, Adobe being them, facilitating that signing solution, and then the document being brought back into OnBase, where OnBase is aware the entire time of where this document is in the process. It does, however, vary in feature set. So how the document makes its way from OnBase into Adobe Sign can only be facilitated via OnBase workflow rules and actions. With the Adobe Sign solution as it stands today, there is no ad hoc capability, but they do facilitate that signing ceremony. User can sign at any time from anywhere. The ease of use and the user interface and experience are all fantastic. At one point, the document is signed, and then it is brought back into OnBase, although this time it is brought back as a new document not as a revision of the existing document. So you'll notice as we go through, there'll be some small nuances. Part of that is 2 different technologies. Part of that is a more modern architecture that we're now using in OnBase, and part of that is our integration for DocuSign has been around since 2012, and our integration for Adobe Sign has been around since 2021. But the same features essentially exist, again, though, that they are all managed via workflow. It is an only automated process in terms of engaging Adobe Sign to send this document to the Adobe Sign cloud for signature. So here we are in OnBase workflow, and I'm going to show you this in a little bit more of a manual sense so that you can see what's happening. But we have our master agreement here within our workflow process. And now this could certainly be an automated workflow activity. In this case, our user is going to click the ad hoc task. And not unlike DocuSign, they'll be presented with an Adobe Sign interface, but there's a little bit more manual work involved here. There isn't yet the capability with the Adobe Sign solution to invoke a template. So the user, in this case, our OnBase, let's say contracts administrator user, will have to do some additional work. Now we're able to grab some properties from workflow, whether they're copied to keywords or not, and actually bring those in to give us our recipients, our sender, maybe part of our message body. We've got the document attached here, but the user does have to go in and do some of the configuring to place the signature locations. Once that piece is done, so it's similar to what I showed you with DocuSign, but this case, it is a requirement on the Adobe Sign side, where in DocuSign, we can use the templates. But now Adobe Sign handles that authentication, they handle the notification, it's sent out that we need a review and a signature. The user comes in, they're actually able to work through the document. I'm almost jumping ahead here, cooking show style. They've reviewed the entire document, and now they are able to sign it. They are able to sign with their finger, with a mouse, a signature pad. We can use a mobile device. It's optimized for a mobile device. Maybe they type their printed name, they add the date in a variety of formats, and the document is signed. When we return to OnBase, we can see that signed copy. Now, if you recall, I mentioned that this is actually brought back into OnBase as a new document. So it is not a revision of the previous copy. Typically, we've got a couple customers that are using this. They'll have 2 different document types. Of course, they're not bringing it into that same document type, and they are cross-referencing the 2. And we have capabilities, of course, based on keywords, but also on that Adobe Sign ID to keep these 2 documents connected. You'll notice on the left-hand side, there's the same capability to validate the signature against the Adobe Sign server for authenticity, and also to ensure that the document has not been altered since signature. And that is, in essence, the end of our story. I think the benefits here are really that we are using 2 best-of-breed signature solutions to handle the piece of the puzzle, meaning our process automation puzzle, that they do best. But what they don't do is all of the content services that OnBase traditionally handles. Managing the provisions, the revisions, the versions, the workflow processes, the retention, the reporting, connecting this one contract to all of the other data to which it relates. This particular document just happened to need a signature, and we've got an integration tool to do that. With the case of the Adobe Sign integration, not only do you need to be on EP5 or higher, you of course are going to need an OnBase workflow because of it's tied to those rules and actions in there. You'll also need the API server and the Hyland IDP. This is built on Hyland's more modern architecture, so you will need these components if you're not using them yet. This is an additional license, the integration for Adobe Sign, of course, workflow, and it is available in all 3 clients. So a couple resources as we close out today, short and sweet. I welcome your questions. If you have any, please type them into the chat. A few places where you can go to find more. First, you're always welcome to connect with me and anyone at Naviant. They are so knowledgeable and wonderful, and I hope that you have found that to be true as well. I can't say anything but good things about everyone that I've ever met at Naviant. They're so smart and helpful. So they're, of course, your first line, but you can always reach out to me if you've got a quick product question or find me on community. We've got a separate community for both the integration for DocuSign, eSignature, and Adobe Sign. You'll also notice that we have some training available for each on University. And here's the community for the Adobe Sign. They're similar in nature, but they will help outline some of the nuances between the two. And again, it's really just a matter of one has been around a lot longer than the other. We certainly have templates for Adobe Sign on our roadmap. We have heard that loud and clear and plan to get that hopefully in the next release. It did not make 23.1, but hopefully 24.1, which will actually be in the February 2024 timeframe is what I'm hearing. But you can play with this as well on try.hyland.com, and I encourage you to. You can't hurt anything. The environment, the integration is all set up, ready to roll, so you can get a sense of what the experience is like, both as an administrator, but also as an end user. And I will pause here for another 5 seconds to see if you've got any questions. And then I've got 2 slides of frequently asked questions that I think you're going to want to stick around for and possibly screenshot. So if we don't have anything else coming in, it doesn't look like we do, I'll give you both of those. The first FAQ that I often get is, okay, you said this is an add-on. What does the licensing look like? If you're perpetual, it will be $15,000 for either of the signature integrations. If you're doing the simplified pricing, you can see that you can add those on as part of the integration bundle. If you are cloud hosted, you'll see the gold, platinum, double platinum pricing on the right. And then the other question that I sometimes get, which I find interesting, is, can you give me a quick comparison of the two? And so here we have the version in which we'd like you to be on, the minimum version, how the documents are getting into the system, whether we're talking about a revision or a new document, and then some key features. The DocuSign templates probably being the big one that you'll find with that integration versus Adobe Sign, and of course that administration layout, which we have for DocuSign, which is not yet available for Adobe Sign. But otherwise, they both have the ability to validate the signatures. They both have an incredibly clean and user-friendly user experience when it comes to actually signing the document, and crisp notifications for alerting that there are signatures needed, reminding for those signatures, and also the ability, if so configured, to send a copy of that signed document back to that signer as well. So now you've got just a quick back and forth. Does look like we have, a couple thank yous, no questions. I thought for a second, maybe I have a question, but you are most welcome, Sarah, and thanks to everyone who let me know that they were here, said hi, and that you could hear me. I do appreciate it. And I'll leave you with this. Our signature solution integrations, really do help your organization to extend the investment you've made in OnBase, sending those documents to the DocuSign or Adobe Sign for eSignature. They also meet user expectations for digital signing and ultimately reduce risk, improve compliance, and increase security with eSignature laws and regulations. All right, and with that, I thank you. Okay, I do see a couple questions in, of course, thank you. Okay, so first, Michael. I believe this was recorded. I just hit start broadcast in here, and I believe it is, it is being recorded. The session is being recorded, and it will be available afterwards from Naviant, and certainly my slides are available as well. So that's to that. So yes, Barb, it is also recorded. And Barb, you had that quick question about going back to the licensing fee screen. So I'll pull that up here, and we can leave it at this. For those of you that do not have any further questions regarding licensing or anything else, feel free to sign off, short and sweet today. Okay, so we have a question. What about migration from DocuSign to Adobe Sign? We'd probably have to talk in particular about what you mean from migrating from DocuSign to Adobe Sign. Certainly from an OnBase perspective, all of the documents that are in OnBase that have already been signed by DocuSign will remain in OnBase untouched. If you no longer have a relationship as an organization, have a relationship with DocuSign, no further documents would be obviously able to be signed through DocuSign, and we could start you on the integration for Adobe Sign, for a lack of a better words. And moving forward, you could have all of your OnBase documents sent to Adobe Sign instead. In terms of the licensing and the fees around that, Michael, I'm not really sure. That would be a question for Naviant and your account manager. I'm sure somewhere in our history there's been some swaps, but I also know if you've been using that integration for DocuSign for many years and gotten the value out of that, they'd probably look to have you purchase the integration for Adobe Sign. But thank you for that question. You are not alone in maybe wanting to ditch DocuSign and move over to Adobe Sign. I would also encourage you, if you are using DocuSign templates and you are using that administration view heavily, just keeping in mind that those are not there on the Adobe Sign solution. So you would lose a couple of features, the ad hoc, the template, and the administrative layout. So that comparison can be helpful as you're making that decision as well. And with that, my friends, I will leave you and thank you for your time and attention today. I very, very much appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evenings. And I hope to see you in Vegas at Hyland's Community Live. Cheers and have a great day.